Today on the Kumite Lifestyle Podcast, I'm super excited to have Jennifer Davenport on. Jennifer is someone that I met through the martial arts and more specifically Isshinryu Karate. Jen is a sensei down in Florida and runs a successful school through Ingram's Karate. I had a chance to meet Jen for the first time back in the early 2010, 2011 time span, and what I was most impressed was with her professionalism and how she carried herself. Over the years, she has become an accomplished martial artist through coaching and competing. So sit back and enjoy this amazing conversation, and let's dive deep with Jennifer Davenport. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Kumite Lifestyle, and today we were joined by Sensei Jen Davenport. Should I call you Sensei, or is it cool if I just call you Jen?
Jen is good.
Awesome. So Jen is someone that I met through the martial arts, more specifically Isshinryu Karate, and we'll kind of deep dive a little bit into what we do, as far as martial arts go. But my first memory of you, Jen, was when I came down to Florida in 2010, and I had the opportunity to train with the Ingrams, who I know you're very close with. You're pretty much a family member, and they always talk so highly of you. And while I didn't get the chance to train with you specifically one on one, I remember interacting with your students, and I actually did. So I take that back. I did get to sit in on one of your classes, and I've seen some of your videos over the years, and just blown away by your professionalism, and not only as a coach but also as an athlete. So, Jen, again,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for being on. And
Thank
how's
you.
life?
It's an honor. I mean, I'm really excited to do this and I appreciate those kind words, really.
Absolutely. And how's life down in Florida? Because that's
Uh,
where you're at right now, right?
where I'm in Florida, it's great. We're not cold yet, so I'm enjoying the warm weather, but dojo's going good and teaching all the time and training all the time. We've got some really important training coming up tomorrow. Starts a 3-day training session, so
Wow.
everything's great and we're super excited.
Yeah, so let's start with that. So what do you have coming up that you want to share that is pretty exciting for not only yourself but for your students?
Yes, for sure. So, my sensei is Sensei John Ingram, which I know you very
Hmm.
much respect, and I do too. I love him so much.
Oh yeah.
And of course, the WUIKA is the organization that Ingram's is part of. And this year, we are having our Gashku Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so for the next 3 days, which is really cool because it brings together Shinryu, practitioners that all share that love of that traditional spirit of Ishinryu. It's a really cool event because obviously Master Harold Mitchum is no longer with us, but this is like continuing on his legacy. So
Yeah.
we get together and we do kata training and bunkai and having just fellowship with other people that really share the love of Ishinryu is always really cool. And what's really fun too is that it feels like a family because we've been getting together for decades now, and it's just a really cool event that I'm looking forward to. So good training and good people.
Absolutely. And you mentioned fellowship, and I can, if I can, I can caveat off that when I came down to Florida back in 2010, like I was saying, I was aside from the training, I just remember just how close knit the Ingram students were, and they really took me in as one of their own. And I wasn't as outgoing, I would say then, or especially, being in a new environment. But after like the second day, I was cool with everyone. So I
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
agree there, like as far as the fellowship. And it's just cool to train with like-minded people because you get to see what other practitioners are doing, and whether you like it or not, it's just a learning curve, and
Absolutely.
ultimately as martial artists, that's what we're doing, right? We're learning, and we just keep moving forward. So I know you're a school owner, but before we discuss that, I want to kind of go back in time. When did you first start your martial arts training?
I started in late 1983 with Sensei John and Sensei Cindy Ingram.
Yep.
It's kind of a funny story because I actually didn't really have any intention of joining karate. I was actually outside playing in my neighborhood and I saw one of my neighborhood friends walking down the street in her gi. You probably know her, Shannon Peterson. She lives in Arizona now,
Hmm.
but she was around back then.
Okay.
And she was very much a part of Ingram's for decades. But we lived in the same neighborhood. And when I asked her where she was going, in her pajamas. She said she was going to karate class. And I ran inside and I told my parents that, Mom, I have to do karate. I have to do karate with Shannon. And that was the day I started. And the rest is history. I never looked back. I've been with Ingram's ever since.
That's awesome. And like I was telling Sensei Sherry, who was on, I was saying, and
For those that started in the 80s, because I'm a 90s kid, but I feel like the 90s for me was such a special time. And those that trained in the 80s will say the same thing about that era. But, we like we didn't have distractions like kids do now. And so when you went
Yes.
to train, like that's what you could I look forward, I mean, I still do today, but as a kid, I look forward to training because I didn't know anything about social media, thank goodness then, but
Yeah, me too.
yeah, and I feel like those that started then, are the lifers because we knew what it was like to put 1,000% into training, and whether it was just training or competing or doing both, you know, um, yeah, so kind of aside from that, excuse me, because I think as students, especially young students, we want to be able to make sure that, we're learning correctly. And as a kid, like you don't know what's right or
No.
wrong in the beginning, but I know you training with Sensei John and Cindy definitely kind of paved the way or did pave the way. So talk about those early years of training because, as martial artists, I get so fascinated by hearing like the old time stories or like how training was back then. So if you can recount or recall, explain like a typical class and how was classes run back then?
So back when I first started, there were no kids classes at Ingram's.
Yeah.
They had one class, and we were at that time running classes from the Newport Richie Rec Center. So we didn't even have a storefront. And I don't mean me. We is like a term that I use, but obviously they were doing it.
I gotcha.
And I was just a little kid walking into the Newport Richie Rec Center, looking forward really to just hanging out with my friends. I really didn't understand what I was getting into. Not that it was a bad thing; it ended up being a wonderful thing, and I loved it. But I can actually remember being on the gym floor, and we had to bow at the line where the basketball court foul line was. So we know that was our entry point into the dojo. We trained on the gym floor, adults and kids alike. And it was really, really fun. I actually remember um, a couple of instances, but my first real memory being a kid was Sensei Cindy actually, and the only thing I can remember is that she made such a big deal of it. But when I did my bow at the gym basketball line, she made a huge deal over how good my bow was. And that's my first memory. I don't know if it was actually very good or she was just being super encouraging, but that always stuck out to me. I was like, that actually paved every single interaction that I have with my students now. I remember how I felt in that moment. And I don't even know if she remembers that, but it was just a bow. But to me, it was like, wow, she really thinks I'm very good at doing a bow. And from there on, I was hooked.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how those life-changing moments, even as a kid, it's only what, like couple seconds.
Yeah,
The person that said it to us or like our coaches, even sometimes parents. I'm not a parent myself, but I interact with parents all the time and they say like, yeah, like I'll tell my kid to do something and they don't, but there's that moment when they finally do. It's almost groundbreaking. So for you, that must have been it was a groundbreaking moment because you remember it so well. And it's awesome that you had such a positive introduction to karate because I mean some of our counterparts might not have had that same experience, and that's why the passion is still lit today for yourself, I'm sure.
I
Um,
agree. I
even
agree because it's more than just training. It's a personal experience, and I
yeah,
think that that's so important.
yep. Um, Now kind of piggybacking off when you were training young, like what did you enjoy most about karate when you started to do it more consistently? Like maybe you're a year in, 2 years in, and you can't wait to get to class. Like what was it about karate class that you always looked forward to? Maybe it was learning kata, maybe it was kumite, or maybe it was just seeing friends. I always loved the social aspect of karate growing up.
I'd be lying if I said that first and foremost as a kid, it wasn't friends. That was my motivator all the time. Karate didn't motivate me very much as a kid until I became a teenager and even after black belt, honestly. I kept
Really?
going because my friends were there. And I didn't dislike it while I was in class. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't something that I thought about and looked forward to, not in the
Hmm.
way I do now.
Yeah.
And I always tell parents, like at the dojo, they tell me that, their kid protests and they don't want to come to class sometimes. And I'm like, trust me, that's normal. I was very much like that. And my parents just kept bringing me, but I was always happy to be there when I was there.
Yeah.
And then as I got a little older, kata was it for me. That is the thing I remember loving. I fell in love with learning the moves, but also the bunkai of it, learning why the moves are the way they are. And then I loved kata competition.
Yeah.
That is where I really just found myself. I felt alive when I was doing kata in the ring, and it's almost like the world melted away, and you really just became who you really truly are in that moment. And then it's over, and it's like you wake up and you look around and you're like, oh, I just did that. But it was just such an amazing thing that I always loved so much. I still love doing kata. Obviously, I don't compete anymore, but when I did, boy, that was it for me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I agree because I'm a kata person myself. And those watching kata, if I can kind of dumb it down, it's just prearranged movements. It's a coordination. Some say it's a dance, but it's more than just that. If you ever watch someone that really understands kata, it's almost like they're fighting imaginary
Mhm.
opponents, as we say. And yeah, it's crazy how you can have like 10 students and you teach them this exactly the same way. Of course, you modify it, but you get some that really gravitate towards the kata. And when you see like especially a kid, like when I watch like a 6-year-old at a tournament or even here at the dojo and they like blast an amazing seisan, which is one of the katas in Isshinryu, I'm like, that's cool, you know?
It
And
is. And you know what's really cool about kata is that in all sports, all athletes understand the concept of how important body mechanics are.
yes,
That's really what kata is. It's just
yep.
a way to train that in a proper way with proper form, proper movement, transition, balance, all that stuff. So, it doesn't have to be a mystical thing. It's really just learning good body mechanics so that your technique is there when you need it.
Yeah, and I think there's a misconception that karate is just kata or it's just, dancing, without an opponent. But if you look at wrestling, like wrestlers before they warm up, it's almost like they're shadow wrestling or boxers.
Right.
That's kata.
That's
And
right.
my instructor Howard Steele during COVID, he made a video about that, and it opened up my eyes. And I remember, people were commenting saying, "Oh, this makes sense now." And it's like thank you, but it shouldn't have taken this long for people to realize that.
Yeah.
It's just people trying to find a way to hate on, anything. And
Things they don't understand.
absolutely, yeah, it's just the ignorant of the fact that they don't know what it is until they actually do it.
Right.
So you talked about kata. Talk about your early days competing because I know Ingram's as so this is actually something that I did not know. I had this misconception. It's not a bad thing, but again, it's just projection. Sometimes isn't the right way to go about things. But I had this notion that Ingram's, you guys specifically were just a competition-based school, kind of grounded in the traditional roots of Isshinryu. And anyone that does martial arts, I'm a firm believer that people start martial arts for the single reason for self-defense, and then people stay for the community, like we're talking about. And of course, then you can compete. But I didn't realize that a small percentage of your students compete. I just thought like, okay, it only makes sense that they're competing because of how great, you guys are. So that's on me for, being ignorant in that sense.
Well, I think it can be easy to see it that way because when you go to an event, the only people you see are the competitive athletes. We actually have a team, and we run our team separate from our classes. And so people who are interested in karate for whatever reason, like you said, self-defense or boosting confidence, camaraderie, whatever thing they're looking for, they can find that in the class because the class is just class. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's not good training for competitive events, but we have a separate training schedule for our athletes who want to take it the step further. And like you said, it's a very small portion of our main dojo. It's not mandatory. First of all, it's not something that we require of our black belts. We like for people to do it because I think it's valuable, especially as a leader. You should experience something at least once or twice before you
Yeah.
lead somebody, so that when they come to you with an issue with something, you can relate. But it's definitely not something that we push. Um, Competition really isn't for everyone, I think.
Yeah.
I've seen people thrive under competitive events because they have that personality, but I've also seen it ruin some people and kind of change, like the entire way they love karate changes because of the pressure or whatever they see competition as being. And so it's definitely a certain personality type that thrives under that kind of event. For me, I lost like a lot. I actually remember being a teenager. I competed from the time I was a little kid until a teenager. And the first time I ever won first place was when I was 16 years old. It took
Wow.
me that long. And kata was always it for me. I always did kumite, but I didn't love it. I love it now. I think it's fascinating and it's strategic and it's fun. And
Yep.
but back then it was always, kata was my main gig.
Yeah. And you said something where like you didn't get the initial wins in the beginning, but just that resilience, and that's what this platform is built on, just resilience and never giving up. Every guest that I've talked to about their competing, it's something very similar. Like they didn't get the results right away,
Mm.
but I feel the ones that have to work for it, they're they're the ones that stay for a long time, because if it comes easy for someone and they don't have to work for it, it's like, okay, great, I'm good at this, and then they move on. But they didn't really gain those
Yeah.
life experiences, because it's ultimately, as instructors, the message that I try to convey, whether it's jujitsu or karate, is this is more than just jujitsu, folks. This is more than just karate. I hope that the skill sets that I'm teaching you, the mindset, can transcend, as you become an adult. And I love that you didn't give up, Jen, because I saw your kata in Tennessee, and I was like, wow, that's
Oh,
like
thank
super
you.
cool. Yeah, and again, not to sound, pompous or arrogant, it's just as a kata person myself, I don't get impressed that easily with kata, and I'm sure you're the same way, especially within. And again, like I want to say it in a way where it doesn't come off as disrespectful, but in our style, I don't see a lot of good kata as a whole, just because it's either too fast or there's no understanding of why they're doing it. And I remember your dad. I'm sorry, not your. Um,
Sensei John.
yes, Sensei John. I'm sorry.
That's okay. He's
He
like
was.
my dad. He's my
Yeah.
second dad.
Yep. Yep. He told me something like, pretty profound when I was getting ready for Italy. He was just like, yeah, just like, I'm not here to change, what you've learned, Nick. I'm just here to give you some tips along the way. And for kata, it was just showed off like every moment, like every technique is like a Kodak moment.
Yes, yes.
And that clicked. And my instructor, Master Rigby at home, is amazing, but I never heard it phrased that way. So it's interesting. So it's cool how those little tips from different people, how I always tell the kids, sometimes like your parents have been telling you this, for a long time. Me just sharing it with you is maybe what you needed to hear because you heard it from somebody else.
It's really a good thing to have a multitude of input because, like you said, you might hear it, but you don't really grab it. And then someone says it in a slightly different way, and it's, oh, that makes total sense. And
Yep.
it's not anything bad. That's just human nature, I think.
Yep, because when we're so used to hearing the same thing over and over again, we kind of dismiss it. But
Yeah.
I agree. So competition wise, did you how many tournaments did you like how many competitions have you done, you think, from the time you started to now? And is there any memorable tournament that like really stands out, something that you remember, or whether you lost or you won,
I,
that you kind of
I,
took away?
it's very hard for me to say the number because
Yeah,
I did it for so many years. But I actually very specifically remember that one that won my first trophy, my first place trophy, I should say.
sure.
That was being held at a at a skating rink. Sensei John and Sensei Cindy. We used to do open tournaments. I know your viewers are probably very familiar with that.
Hmm.
And we did that for the longest time when I was a kid. And so we were at a skating rink, and it was on the gymnasium floor. And, I mean, on the skating rink floor, and just having that moment where I felt like all of the hard work came together in that moment and it was all worth it because you go through that doubt, you think, why am I even doing this sometimes, but
Yeah.
in that moment that was formative for me because it made me understand that winning isn't just winning isn't just in the moment. It's like, it's the progress leading up to it.
Yeah.
And I think that was the day I realized that. And I want to say I was 16. I was pretty young. But then we eventually, Sensei John and Sensei Cindy decided to make the switch to AAU. And we've been AAU specifically, since then. That was back in the 90s. And that was a hard transition. So I actually remember my first AAU event because things are different in AAU than they were in open. There's a different emphasis on, the Kumite techniques, and there's a different rule book, and everything was different. So I remember that one specifically. And then I think most recently, the one I remember most is when we traveled to London in 2019.
Yeah.
And that one was special because not only did I get to travel with, I know Sensei Sherry, she's my best friend in the whole world. So I got to hang with her in London and have some fun and, be in an event with her, which hadn't happened in a long, long time. But I also got to travel with my son because both of my kids did karate, and my son was still training and he was competing. So that was a really cool moment. Not because of the event itself, although it was a really cool event, but just because of the moment in my life. It was like the last time that I got to compete with my son, and I had my best friend there, and I was with the Ingrams, and all of it was just really special.
Yeah, and I say this a lot too, and like, thank you for sharing that. I don't always remember like how I did at every tournament.
Mhm.
But what I do remember is the road trips,
Yes,
everything leading up to, and it's awesome that it's very similar with competitors are like everything that leading up to. And I love that you said that, when you had that groundbreaking moment at 16, it was the culmination of everything that led up to, what it took to win that. So I'm curious, after that moment, I don't want to say like did karate get not easier, but did you find a little bit more joy and passion for it because you finally got over that hurdle, if you will? So
I
what was your
did.
mindset shift there?
Yeah, I absolutely think that happened. Up to that point, I felt like everyone else believed in me,
Yeah,
especially my senseis. But then on that day, I started to believe in me. And that changed everything because when you don't know, when you're not sure, you walk in there with a sense of uncertainty, you bring that in your performance. And then once you have that click where you go, I actually can do this, that makes it possible. And so in that moment, that actually changed everything for me in my entire life was realizing that, I'm not going to be good at every single thing I start, but if I stick with it, I will eventually become good. And that kind of laid the groundwork for everything, not just in karate, but also in my life.
yeah. No, that's awesome. I didn't know, like I never knew that about you. I mean, just that you
I'm
had
actually
that.
a very unconfident person. Karate really did some good work in me.
Sure. And as in myself and as in our counterparts, especially the ones that have been there for a while. And it's like the saying, like, like attracts like, people do what people like them are doing. So when you're constantly around people that are training, the same mindset, even if they don't, win right away, it's always gratifying to know that you're going through the same process as the person next to you. And I know Gabe mentioned to, your best friend Sensei Sherry. I'm sure, well, I'm almost positive that having her on the journey, has definitely helped too. It's like it's just nice to know that we're not alone.
It is. Even now as adults, we work together, obviously. We're a team. And some days I feel really down and she helps me. And then, sometimes it goes in the other direction and I feel like I'm helping her. So it makes all the difference.
Yeah. So now jumping into coaching and teaching now.
Mhm.
So talk to us about your dojo. And so every time I talk to instructors, I always love, picking their brains on like what it's like to run a school because I think this notion is that people think as martial arts owners or as instructors and senseis that all we do is just teach. Like, oh, like your job is easy. Like you're going out there just teaching kicks. It's not that obviously because we wear a lot of different hats. So talk to us about your dojo and like what a typical day in the life is for Sensei Jen.
Sure. So you're right when you say we wear many hats because the day starts fairly early. I mean, I feel like I'm always on. Anytime somebody is interested in my location, because we have a couple of locations. I try to jump in right away and interact with them, whether it be email or text or phone call. So that's a part of the day that is not happening at the dojo. It's here at my house,
Yeah.
and it's whenever. I mean, there is no certain time for that. It's whenever somebody inquires. And then, so as we move through the day, I head to the dojo kind of early. I want to make sure everything's nice and looks good and smells good and is ready to greet all of the families that are going to come train. And then, teaching obviously is what people see. So it is kind of the main part. But when you're teaching, you're not just teaching kicks or punches or self-defense. You're kind of like a psychologist. I mean, everyone learns differently. So you do need to understand how to present the information in a way that they can really absorb.
Yeah.
That's part of it. You have to understand interpersonal relationships and how to put people in the group with others that will help them thrive rather than feel, like less than. You have to constantly be putting out fires, whether it's the toilet is clogged or, Johnny in the second row is not paying attention, like whatever it is, you have to
Yeah.
be ready at a moment's notice to fix whatever problem arises and teach good karate because I believe that people when they show up, they don't know what they're looking for. I mean, I think self-defense is the common theme, but when they walk in, they don't know if it's a good school or not. So you
Yeah.
have to be personable. You have to be friendly. You have to be charismatic. You have to actually care about the people that are walking in the dojo. And if you don't actually care, like I can remember when when I first started really becoming a teacher, Sensei Cindy Ingram said to me, if everything that you do is done from the framework of what is going to be helpful and best for that student, you will succeed. Even if you make a mistake, if that's how you approach it, you will be successful. And that was great advice because it's really all about people. And so teaching karate isn't just teaching karate. It's really everything.
Yeah, it's like we're in the people business that just so happens to teach karate. And
That's right.
there's a few things you just said there that's pretty profound. One is the cleanliness of the building. I've been a full-time instructor now with Sensei Steel since 2020 of COVID year, and that was a
Oh
crazy year
yes.
in itself. But man, if there was ever a time to make sure that the facility was clean, and I always appreciated and valued that because coming from Master Rigby's dojo, he always ensured that everything was, spot on. And as a kid and even as a teenager, like I never really appreciated that because when you're used to seeing something that's kind of in your mind, like, oh, this is the way that it's supposed to be done. But then you go to other schools and you hear about other places not being, I guess, up to the standard as far as cleanliness. I started to think like, oh, that's weird because I never had that issue. And I
Right.
remember coming to your dojos down in Florida, and hygiene and cleanliness was always, top of the list. And now, like many years later, I value that. And then something else you touched on was, giving your best foot forward every class because even on our worst days, because that can be hard. And I'm sure you'd agree, it's like no matter what we're going through, our personal day, like whatever that is, when we're teaching, you got to give 100% or at least the best you can because that one bad class that you teach based on your own personal issues, that could be the day that a student goes home and says, "Hey, I don't want to do this anymore." And really what it was, like Sensei Jen didn't give me her all that I know that she can.
That's
So it's
right.
just a reminder that, we got to put our students first, and um teaching is hard, and like
Yeah.
but when you care about it and you care about the overall mission, and like Sensei Cindy was saying, like what can the students convey or what can I give them the best, version of, makes it so much better.
It sure
So
does.
yeah, so with that being said, what has been some of the greatest accomplishments as a teacher so far? Because it's easy to say, oh yeah, like, this student got their black belt or their student's winning. But I'm just curious because since you are an amazing sensei, what are things that you can share with the viewers that have made you a successful sensei and coach?
I think, and obviously without saying names or specifics, having students that walk in the door feeling like they can't do it or they're not confident in themselves or their abilities, and then watching them change. And that's
Yeah.
not any one pinpoint moment. It's a gradual process, but being able to be part of that is I can't even explain really, but it's probably the most rewarding thing is to know that what I do and how I affect that one person is going to have a ripple effect in our community and in our world, right? So, the old saying is hurt people. But I think that people who are empowered and lifted up do the same. They empower and lift up. So it's far reaching. You don't ever really know how far it goes. But I have had countless families come and say, thank you with so and so because they now are trying out for track or now they want to be what they want to be in a play where before they were shy. They're more confident in their school, they're doing well in school, whatever it might be. Everybody's different, but just having my class be the stem for that growth, I think is really cool. And there's not really any way to put your finger on it, but just knowing, like, at the end of the day, I did something that mattered. And it mattered, even if it's just to one person, that one person goes out and they affect the community. So it's a big deal.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. Just knowing that what we're doing, hopefully, or at some point, is going to transcend into I don't want to say regular life, but life outside the dojo.
Yeah.
Um, something that I've never asked any of my guests, so I'm going to ask you, what is something that you've learned from a student that has helped you become an instructor? And I'm asking that because I get reminded of every time that I'm teaching. So I've done something a little silly lately, and I'll just share with you. Actually, I can show you. So my time in the military, I was in the Air Force, and I remember one of my supervisors, they would take the time to not only, praise gratitude, but they would say, "Hey guys, thank you for going the extra mile." And I'm be thinking, "Well, yeah, it's my job." But they would, give us like this extra gum, and it's like basically saying the extra mile. So, and I
That's
always thought,
cool.
yeah, so like I always thought, wow, that's kind of corny, but it always stuck. So this week, I went out to the store and I said, you know what? I'm going to try this with some of the helpers and the volunteers. And I said, hey, so and so, like, I want to thank you for your time. Like, thank you for going the extra mile. And I thought it would just be like, something goofy, but they loved it. And I thought,
Mhm.
man, it's something so small, but like people want to know that you care.
Right.
And the thing that I learned from my students is just being like 100% authentic for them, and then they'll give the same in return. Because I don't know, sometimes I feel like instructors, business owners, they're kind of fake, they want to put on this persona like they have it all together. And Jen, I'll be honest, I don't have it all together, but
Nobody has it all together.
exactly. But when I'm here at the dojo, it's like my happy, it's like my happy space, and I can contribute that to the students that I get to teach and like the things they teach me. So I'm curious for you, is there any specific moment where maybe a student said something, whether maybe not by words or just action, that reminded you of like, man, this is like I was put on this earth to teach, and like you're the reason why.
Actually, I have a very specific one. It
Sure.
was I was a young adult, so in my early 20s, I was a new mom, and I had started being confident in my teens, but of course, as you get older, you get more and more confident. You start to, as they say, it's like whatever. You get older and you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I wasn't quite there yet. I was still feeling insecure in a lot of ways, and I had just had my first child, so my body wasn't the same, and my mindset was not the same. I was kind of out of it for a little bit of time as far as like I wasn't on my game.
Sure.
And I felt like that was being reflected in my teaching. And I felt like I was not doing well for my students. We talked about that already and how that matters so much. And it mattered to me and it bothered me.
Yeah.
And I was feeling small, for lack of a better word. I just wasn't feeling empowered for whatever reason. My life changed me. And so I had a parent come to me and tell me that they were so impressed by something that I felt was a weakness. Um, they saw it as a strength. And it was, I can't quite remember how they worded it, but they said,
Sure.
I noticed that when you talk to your students, you're this certain way. Like you have some instructors that are a little bit more meek. You have some instructors that are a little bit more forceful and like confident and loud and like kind of not aggressive. That's the wrong word, but there's different personalities. And I
Yeah.
always felt that I wasn't that kind of aggressive, confident, forward facing person. Um, and the parent was appreciative of that because their child isn't like that.
Mm,
And it opened my eyes to make me understand that we all are made the way we're made for a reason.
yeah.
And we shouldn't look around and compare ourselves to others because how we approach things and how we share things and how we teach things is that's what they need. And
Yeah.
so in that moment, I realized it's not a weakness, it's a strength. We're all different, but that's actually a really good thing.
Yeah, for sure. And it's crazy how it takes us a little bit later in life to realize that,
For sure.
it's almost like I wish like if I could go back to my early days of teaching, and I'm sure it's the same way for you, I wish I had a blueprint of all the things that are to come. It's like I can expect this on this date, and just a mindset shift. But yeah, I think you know, from what I'm hearing, just having the support also from the parents, like
Mm.
having them like just knowing that they have your back, and if you do have to correct a student, or if you do have to not put them in their place, you just know that they like are like, okay, like I see why you did that. Because I can tell you this, man, like when I first started teaching, it was nerve-wracking. I was like 16, and I remember teaching a group of green belts, and Master Rigby's watching, the parents are watching. It was only 10 minutes, but man, I thought the world was slowing down. But then it like maybe that was the case for you early on, but
Oh, let me just tell you, Sensei Cindy, if you're watching, you'll agree with this. But when I was young, she actually started having me apprentice when I was a new black belt. So I was 12, which
Nice.
is ridiculously young. And I was teaching in the newly formed kids class and also the adult class. And I felt very insignificant, very insecure. I would actually, I don't know if you guys did this at your dojo, but we used to have a card box for attendance cards.
Oh yeah.
I would hide when it was time to teach. I was there to teach. Like she brought
Hmm.
me in to teach. I knew this. I would take the attendance card box and go find a place where she couldn't see me and slowly file the cards away because I was so scared to get on the dojo floor and actually teach.
Yeah.
I was terrified. So yeah, I can totally relate to that for sure. And the hard thing is that sometimes parents, it's nice to have their support. And I think that is a big part of why we do what we do, because I feel like we're a team with the parents and we're helping them not just raise a martial artist, but raise a child into a successful adult. But even what's really cool is that a lot of them don't really understand the reasons why we do things.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, maybe they don't understand karate, or they haven't been entrenched in that child psychology world or that student psychology world enough to really understand the approach. It's really, really cool though when they take a step back and they say, even when they don't understand, they allow you the space to do what they actually asked you to do in the first place and let
Yeah.
you do it to the best of your ability. That's really cool.
It is cool. And going back to the card, did Sensei Cindy ever catch on?
I think so. She, Sensei Cindy is she is a force, and she was not a person that was just going to let me sit by. In fact, my entire life has been me saying I'm not going to do that thing, and then my sensei saying, "Oh, actually, you are going to do it, and you're going to be great." And then I look back, and it always turned out that way. I did it, and I was glad I did it, and it was great.
Yeah. It's like they always saw something in you before you saw it in yourself. But just
Always.
imagine, yeah, but just imagine had you not had those important figures in your life, like where your life would be. Because I don't know life without karate.
Me too.
I don't even want to pretend to know what that's like. And Jen, something that's it's a little corny, but when people ask me like, hey Nick, like what do you do for a living? And this is like people that don't know me. Do you ever find it tough to describe what you do because you want to like say like I have the best job in the world, but you say, oh yeah, like I just teach karate or jujitsu, and then I always get okay, but what else do you do? I'm like, that's it. I just do. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah. But what I really want to say is I have the best job because I'm in the people business that just happens to teach XYZ, and it's life changing because I get to interact with kids, and even though I'm not a parent myself, I learn so much from them and even the adults and just the community. And but how do you like how do you sum that up in a sentence or two where it makes sense, where I just say, yeah, I do karate and I just go about my life, you know?
It's hard because there is so many different levels of what we do. I think, honestly, often I don't even, I say I teach sports sometimes because I don't even really want to go into it with people who don't understand. But if I feel like maybe there's a little bit of readiness to accept, first of all, let me just say it's not easy. It wasn't easy being a teen, a young person teaching adults. So the adversity challenge was always a struggle, and so I think that's part of the reason why. Like for example, recently I went. I went into a grocery store. I didn't have my Ingram shirt, so I was wearing my gi without my belt because I needed to run in for something quick. And it was the week of Halloween, and people were like, "Oh, you do karate?" And I was like, "No, it's just a Halloween costume." Because sometimes you just don't want to go into it.
Yeah,
But I think part of it is
that,
just being able
that's
to.
clever.
It only works one week a year, though. I think part of it is just letting people take it for whatever level they see it as, right? So for some people, that's just going to be, oh, you just teach karate, and then for other people, that's going to be, oh, you're like a superstar, you must be in movies. And then for other people that they don't even understand what it is and they go, oh, cool, and they walk on. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because it's, like just like training karate, karate is for everyone, but everyone isn't for karate. Um, I think that's okay. And I don't really try to force it on people. If they're interested, I figure they'll ask.
Yeah, and I love the Halloween analogy, how you like went to the store. That's clever. I wouldn't even have thought about that. I would
Well,
probably just
usually when you tell them that you're in karate, then they say, "Well, I'm not going to mess with you." And I always want to say, "Well, you were going to before." Like
yeah.
it's like funny.
Yeah.
People, just a strange dichotomy of conversations.
Yeah, it's almost like an automation. It's almost like they're programmed to say that right away.
Yeah.
Because because as a kid growing up, I would tell kids because it was a little bit different as a kid because I wanted to like because I love karate and like
Yeah.
not bragging about it, but I want to be able to like tell people that hey, this is something that I've loved, something that it's changed me. But growing up, I would say, yeah, I do karate. Oh, show me a tornado kick. I'm like,
Right.
all right, cool, let's do it, right? But obviously, as adults, that kind of transcends a little bit different. So speaking of teaching, we build a lot of connections with students over the years. And something that I've learned recently, and I always get reminded of this, is that we only get certain students for a certain season at a time because as lifers as we are, because we see the benefits of karate and martial arts, but I know that everyone's not going to kind of see it through the same lens as we do. And I've built a lot of great connections over the years with just people at this academy and even indirectly, like yourself, the Ingrams. I mean, I hold you guys to such a high pedigree in my life. You guys have been such life changing. So when you meet students and you had these good connections, for me, it was tough, Jen, for me to see students go because I invest so much time, and I'm like, it's like what the heck, like because a part of me is just like how dare you leave? It's like I thought we were tight, but then I had to learn like I might not be the instructor for everyone, but that's okay. Doesn't mean we still can't be homies. So I'm interested from your perspective, how have you balanced that? Like, is that something that kind of came naturally as far as if someone has to go, do you take it personal or not? I don't know.
It depends on the situation. I,
True.
in the past, have very much taken it personal. I will say, as a teen, I got married very young. I got married at 19 and had my first child at 21. So I watched friends go off to college and take a different life path than I did, and that's cool and that's great. And everybody does the thing that they do, and more power to everyone for doing their specific life choice. But it was really hard in that moment because, like I had said earlier in the conversation, a big part of why I even stayed in karate as a kid was because of those specific people.
Yeah.
So watching them move on and go to college or, move away, move to another state, it left me feeling a little bit lost in that there was like, I can remember a specific 5 year period where I kept feeling like all of the people that mattered, not that everyone doesn't matter, but those specific people were leaving and they were the reason I was here, and now I had to find my own way, and that was a struggle. So that was hard, but
Yeah.
I did that young. So then when I started being an instructor, I taught under Sensei Cindy for a long, long time. But then about, oh gosh, I don't even know how many years ago now, but when she kind of stepped away and I stepped into that like head position, I think I had already dealt with that
Yeah.
because of those experiences. So I didn't take them as personal, but I will say, especially when you have a student from a very, very young age and then they stay all the way until they go off to college, I don't take it personal, but it's heartbreaking because
Yeah.
you love them and they've become such a part of your identity and your school, and that relationship is never going to change. You always have that good relationship, but now they're no longer there every day, and you miss them. And so I don't want to say I take that personally, but it is hard. I mean, I can
Yeah.
think back to very, very many students that I miss, and some of them I'm even friends still with, and we communicate, and I get to see updates on Facebook, social media, or whatever, and it's always fun to see that. And I think back really fondly on the time I had with them. And then there are sometimes when people just decide that karate is just not for them. That's not. I don't take that personally. It's not. That's not something that I did, or maybe I feel like I couldn't have performed better. I don't feel that way. I feel like maybe they got what they needed out of their time at the dojo, and they're going to take that with them now and move on. So for me, it was just more that personal sense of loss as a teenager when my people were moving on. It really helped me deal with that as an adult.
Yeah. And whether you realize it or not, it was teaching you like later on to like kind of cope with those things because we take a lot of things for granted and we think people are never going to leave and it even starts with your parents or your family. We think we think people are going to be in our lives forever, but they're not. And same thing with karate. And you said something that was pretty profound where you have a student all the way up to college. And I remember because I was that student, with Master Rigby, and I had a core group of people, and I think I was 18, and like I was going off to college, and it's like who am I? I think sometimes we kind of base our identity around the people we are, but as martial artists and just being resilient, like you kind of build into the person you like ultimately become because I don't know if you agree with this or not, because I know you're a parent, but I think, when we go to high school, we go to college, I think this notion is that we're supposed to have it all figured out. And Jen,
Right.
I don't have it all figured out. I mean, I have a great idea of who I am because of martial arts, but
Right.
yeah, it's just life experiences, and karate definitely helps kind of shape and kind of as we kind of avenue like through life.
For sure. I agree. And so many of my um, principles, I guess. I mean, I'm a Christian and that really does form my worldview, but
Sure.
karate is right in line with that. And
Yeah,
so, I feel like karate helped me already have a baseline for what I expect for myself and from my surroundings and from the world. But sometimes that runs counter to the world. And so then you get that friction because, the world isn't always the way you want it to be. So you got to kind of move through that and, that conflict wherever it might be. But honestly, it's just a matter of remembering that no one's perfect, and if we're all just doing the best that we can for the best intention, I think you end up in a really good place. And if
I
you lose sight of those two things, I think you end up in a really bad place.
I agree. Yeah. Um, it just it's just a reminder of all the things that we've learned in karate to, you know, as you move forward. So on that note, what do you do when you're not teaching karate? Because I know martial arts is enrooted in you. It's a big part of who you are. And you were just talking about like, or we are just talking about how like if we go this way or that way, it's the things that we've learned along the way that kind of help shape us. So I'm interested to know, Jen, like when you're not at the dojo, what do you like to do, as a free time or like, any additional hobbies that you don't mind sharing?
No, I don't mind at all. Well, first and foremost, I'm a parent, and that is 100%. I am all in on that because I'm so proud of my kids, and I'm so proud to be a mom. To me, that's my number one best accomplishment in my entire life.
Yeah,
And karate is beneath that because that's so important to me. And my kids are grown now, so I do have time. They're in their early and late 20s, so I have plenty of time now to enjoy my free time. And believe it or not, this is going to sound so strange, but I actually have a YouTube channel.
no, that's awesome.
It's completely not karate. I took a left turn and I went and did home decorating, and I've been really enjoying that. As you know, YouTube is hard and it's a challenge, and I felt like I was in need of a hobby, and I also like a challenge. So it was really fun to go on that journey. I've been doing that for a few years and I love it. It's
That's
really
awesome.
fun. But what's really hard is I love karate and my channel so much and equally. So it's really hard when I'm focusing on karate things. I'm feeling guilty that I'm not putting more time and energy into my hobby. And then when I'm doing my hobby, I'm like, oh, I should be focusing on karate things more. So,
Yeah.
but I think that's a blessing. Anytime you have something that you love, it's a blessing. And having two things is, I'm really lucky.
Yeah. Well, as they say, there's no such thing as balance, you just shift the focus. And I
That's
think
exactly right.
and I think it's awesome that you've kind of explored into other realms of life aside from martial arts because like Sensei Rigby used to tell me and even Sensei Steele, like there's more to life than just this. And it's sometimes it's hard to believe. But so if you don't mind, like what is your content like what made you get into home decorations from what you're saying?
So I've always been interested in that sort of a genre, I guess. I don't know what you call that, niche. Even as a young married person, I was very much into making my house just so. And so when I decided to do this channel, it was funny because Sensei John actually asked me if I was going to be doing kata tutorials in my decorating videos because I think he thought it was kind of a funny thing. He probably still does, actually. But it's all centered around creating a cozy home and homemaking, and that is a huge part of who I am. I love family time. I love home time. I'm very much a homebody. I don't really enjoy travel that much. I mean, I do it, but I don't really. I get stressed when I travel. I
Sure.
want to be home. I enjoy the comfort of home and making a sanctuary. So it's kind of about that.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Thanks.
If you don't mind, what's your channel? So the
It's
viewers can
okay. So here we go. And here's the plug. It's good home. So good with an E and then the word home.
awesome. Yeah, so if you guys watch and check that out. So for anyone that's looking, for home decorations, Jen's your person to go. So
Yeah,
that,
you can make your home beautiful and learn self-defense.
yep, yeah. So I was about to say that, right? So it kind of caveats both areas of life, right? You have the self-defense, and then you can also make your home look good.
That's right.
That's cool. Um,
Thanks.
so kind of going back to earlier in discussion about so we do Isshinryu Karate,
Mhm.
and Isshinryu means one heart way. For those that are not familiar, Isshinryu is a Okinawan type style coming from Master Shimabuku, and you also mentioned Master Mitchum, Harold Mitchum, who's one of the first generation students. So Isshinryu in itself, what has, and this is something that I love asking Isshinryu senseis and masters alike, but what has Isshinryu given you, or like how could you summarize Isshinryu in your own words that best fit how like what it's done and what it continues to do for you?
So I think drawing on the word Ishinru and what it means, one heart way, for me, I think I have learned what that means to me is that you dedicate your whole heart to something.
Yeah.
No half measures, right? Everything that you do in your life should be done to the best of your ability. And I think for me anyway, when I hear one heart way or one heart method, that's what I think. I feel like, you put your whole heart into something and you dedicate yourself to the best of your ability. And if it takes off and if it's successful, then that's a result of what you did to help that, along with a little bit of help from God along the way, right? Because nothing is doable without that.
Yep.
But and if it fails, because sometimes the things that we are so passionate about don't succeed. If it does fail, you can at least lay your head on your pillow at night knowing that you did everything you could have done. Because I think regret comes from wonder. And if we get to the end of whatever we're doing and we look back and we're not sure if we did it to the best of our ability, that'll kind of eat at you. So for me, one heart means your whole heart and put yourself into it all the way. That's kind of what Ishinra has done for me.
Yeah. And just to caveat off that, because the one heart way and not living with regrets, going back to when you were talking about, making connections with students and not being so let down if they do leave. I think the reason why we might, as instructors, and I just thought of it just now, so thank you for reminding me, is because we care so much about what we teach. That's why we take it personally. If
Yeah,
we didn't take it, like if we didn't care, then it'd be like, oh, you're quitting? Okay, cool, bye.
right.
But that's not the case.
That's right.
But like I would agree though with the Isshinryu being like, putting your heart in everything that you do. It's kind of silly growing up because I was taught that, but I never really gave it much thought until years later into my adult life, how those life lessons that I learned growing up and just, yeah, just being passionate like about what you do and just being genuine, just being authentic.
For sure.
Because if that's one thing that I've learned being a sensei is that because man, especially kids, they know when you're faking it because
Yes, they
like
do.
like they can read you thinking, hey, like Sensei Nick, something's off without them even telling you hey, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. I don't know if at your dojo you have this, but we have windows like a viewing area. And the truth is that you never know who's watching and you never know who you're leading, right? So everything you're doing matters so much. Like sometimes the sibling that's out there watching the class, it might be getting something out of something you're doing or the way you carry yourself or just the friendly tone that you have for them when they walk in the door. Like it's not always just about the self-defense aspect or that specific student. You never actually know how you reach people. And so that's such a big deal. So you're right. I mean, we do care about it because we understand how important it is. And like you said, we're in the business of people. It just happens to be karate is the vessel.
Absolutely. I was reminded too, probably about a year ago, I had a student come in because when you talk about like you never know who you're teaching or you never know who you're watching, life being so small as they say, I had a friend that lives down by the beach here in Delaware, and I guess she knows one of the parents that came in and she was like, hey, yeah, so and so said that you were teaching their kid. I'm like, who's that? And they're like, oh, it's my friend XYZ, and I was like, oh, that's crazy. But it just reminded me, like, man, I'm glad that I was super nice that day. I mean, not that I wouldn't be, but it's just a reminder, like you said, always putting your best foot forward for sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, Pretty cool. So Jen, what do you guys have coming up? So you talked about the event coming up this weekend, but aside from that, do you have anything that's not urgent, but like exciting as far as like maybe the holidays? Are you guys going anywhere or for the dojo? Anything that you don't mind sharing? Like basically, I want to know what's next for Jen Davenport.
So I just got back off of vacation, so I don't plan for any travel anytime soon. But we are really excited at the dojo because every year we start our competitive training in the fall because our first event is in January. So we
Wow.
just kicked off our competitive training season, and Looking forward to just another season, new adventures, new travel, new experiences. That is something that we're really looking forward to. And I think for me personally, just a little bit of downtime and family time. We sometimes we get so wrapped up in work or even hobby. Like I love my hobby, but sometimes it takes me away and distracts me from what's really important, which is family. And so, we have a week at Thanksgiving and then 2 weeks during the Christmas break that we shut the dojo down and we
Yep.
just really enjoy family time. And I'm really looking forward to that. I think that is a time to recharge, and that helps me kind of enter the new year and the new competitive season with a little bit more fire because I did have that downtime.
Yeah. And I love how you said recharge, because it's important, taking breaks. And I think
Mhm.
the holidays are the perfect time because once the new year starts, it's like, okay, cool. I get the kind of fresh start, as they say.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
definitely.
Jen, thank you so much for your time today. I love that we had a chance to kind of deep dive early into your career. And I remember you saying like you were the shy person, as mentioned. And one of the things I thought that was pretty, not like it was funny, but pretty genuine was when you were helping Sensei Cindy as a kid and, taking your time with the cards and her pushing you to be the best version. And thank God she did, right? Because
Absolutely. She actually guided me and changed my entire life. So, I have the utmost respect for her and for Sensei John. I love them so much. I wouldn't be who I was or who I am without, their influence. So, I just feel really blessed to get to have them in my life.
Absolutely. And then we talked about your mindset when it comes to competing. I know you mentioned about going over to England in 2019. So you're an international competitor. And for the viewers that are maybe just chiming in or maybe missed it, you said something that at 16, you had that groundbreaking moment when you finally got over that hurdle and you said that was changing where it kind of rejuvenated or kind of sparked that fire. For those watching, just keep going, right? Don't give up. And if you love something or if you think you're good at it, even just a little bit, just sometimes having that niche to keep going. And something that you said was having those friends that kind of push you along the way. And then we talked about, not taking things personally. And that can be so tough, especially in this industry.
For sure.
Yep. So Jen, before we close out, well, actually two things. Where can the viewers find you aside from your YouTube page, but if people want to get to know more about Ingram's Karate or where to find you, what would be the best way to do that?
Probably the best thing would just be to go to the website, ingramskarate.com. There's a ton of great information there about our classes and our competitive team. And I actually run our blog on that website. And there's a lot of great information there as far as articles, videos, not just karate things, sometimes life things too. I think that's probably the best way. Or, you could always email the dojo, ingramskarate@verizon.net, if that's something that you want to be able to speak with someone about specifics. That would be the best way.
Very cool. And lastly, and more importantly, I always give my guests the time to give any shout outs to anyone that kind of comes to mind. And you kind of did that kind of throughout the show. But if I could give you like the next 60 seconds, who would you like to give gratitude towards, or anyone watching, who do you like want to make mention of?
Well, first and foremost, my biggest gratitude is to God, 100%, because that is who I am, 100%, and I love my faith, and I feel whole because of it. My senseis, absolutely, my senseis, I love them more than I can even explain. Sensei Sherry Angwin, my best friend in the whole world. We grew up together. We are a team. We're friends and we're a family, and even just people that have come into my life and gone out of my life, my family, my grandparents. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be who I am without all of the input from all of the people that I love so much. And I'm very, very grateful for all of the friendships I've made. I'm grateful to be able to do this with you today. It's been really fun hanging out with you and getting a chance to, be on your podcast and hopefully we'll get a chance to see it grow. I'll be watching future episodes. I'm going to watch Jacob's. I'm going to watch Sensei Sherry's. So,
Mhm.
I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity. So thank you.
No, thank you for giving me your time and just allowing me to share this platform with you. And love that you said that giving praise to God, of course, and just the people that made you who you are. Because I feel so many times in life, people forget where they come from, and I don't get that vibe from you at all. Never have, and just same thing when I was talking to Sherry, just always remembering where you come from. So
Stay humble, right?
absolutely. So again, guys, this is Jen Davenport, amazing instructor down in Florida, entrepreneur, also runs an awesome YouTube page. So make sure you check that out. And Jen, thank you so much for your time today, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.